Good morning. It's a little windy and gray, but it's beautiful. Anyway, we continue with the second part of step 4, learning to love ourselves. Besides identifying and healing from past feelings, incidents, and beliefs, there is another important benefit from working this step. Some people call the 12 steps a selfish program. Well, that's true. We do this program for ourselves, no matter whose problem got us into the steps, no matter who we originally came to these steps to help. But these steps are also a self-esteem program. We work them to be done with shame, guilt, and low self-esteem. We work these steps to learn how to love ourselves. Then we can learn how to love other people and let them love us. Legitimate guilt means we feel badly about something we have done. If we feel badly about something we have done, we can remedy that and be done with the guilt. There is a solution, whether that involves changing our behavior or making an amend. Shame means we feel badly about being who we are. Changing our behavior or making an amend doesn't make shame go away. Shame leaves us with a sense that all we can do is apologize for existing. Many of us have been controlled by shame. Sometimes it comes from others. Sometimes it comes from within. This step helps us learn to switch from a shame-based system to a system of loving and accepting ourselves as is. We are clearing up our guilt and shame. An acceptance-based system means we love, cherish, nurture, and unconditionally accept ourselves and our histories. It means we allow ourselves to make mistakes and errors. This recovery program was designed for human, imperfect beings. Our new definition of perfection can mean embracing who we are at any given moment. Mistakes are what we do, not who we are. When doing this step, do not forget to list the wrongs we may have done to ourselves, telling ourselves that it is not okay to be who we are, punishing and rejecting ourselves for being that, treating ourselves in any manner that is less than what we deserve. Not loving, accepting, nurturing, and cherishing ourselves are some of the most abusive wrongs we can do. People who love themselves don't stop growing and changing. People who love and accept themselves are the people who become enabled to change. That is what this step is about, continuing the process of self-love and acceptance we began in step 1. People who love themselves do not become self-centered. They become people able to love others because they love and accept themselves. If anyone told you it was bad or wrong to love yourself, please do not believe them. It is the best, healthiest, and most loving thing you can do for yourself and all the people in your life. This step sets us on the track to doing that. By the time we reach this step, we are called upon to do some focused work. It can be intense. What are we searching for? The darker side, the side that prevents us from loving ourselves, loving others, and letting others love us. The side that blocks us from finding the love and happiness we want and deserve. We look for fears, anger, hurt, and shame from past events buried feelings that may be affecting our lives today. These feelings often have their roots in our relationships with our parents or with other significant people from our pasts. Often present responses are connected to our unresolved feelings from the past. To free ourselves today, we must heal from yesterday's feelings. We look for subconscious beliefs about ourselves and others that may be interfering with the quality of our lives and relationships today. We look at our behaviors and our patterns with an eye toward discerning the self-defeating ones. We look at our hidden agendas, the ones we sometimes hide even from ourselves. If we try to dig out all the guilt, earned and unearned, and get it into the light. We do this without being afraid of what we will find. We perform this task with love and compassion for ourselves. We allow ourselves to have all the feelings about others we need to feel along the way. But our goal is to perform this task with as much love and compassion for others as possible, as long as that love and compassion doesn't reinforce our denial of reality. We feel as angry, even rageful, as we need to feel at first. Then we strive for forgiveness. We go back to the past long enough to be able to finally put it behind us and set ourselves free. We often find a snowballing effect when we begin this process. The healing takes on a life of its own if we are open and willing. We talked in this chapter about some ways to do this step. The different ideas mentioned are not all the ways. If you or someone you know has a suggestion for doing this step that appeals to you, please try it. Al-Anon World Services publishes, it looks like it's a checklist. It's called Blueprint for Progress. It's a checklist that many find helpful in doing their fourth step. Some people, like Louis Anderson, find it helpful to write letters. Dear Dad is a sequence of letters he wrote to his deceased and alcoholic father. In these letters, Anderson works through a range of emotions, from anger to confusion to love and acceptance, surrounding the impact his father's alcoholism had on him and their relationship. Some people just take out pencil and paper and write. I've done 3 4-stepped inventories now, said Jane. I just sit down with a pad of paper and I write and write and write. That works for me. Some people say they've done this step in bits and pieces rather than tackling their entire histories all at once. Some people find it helpful because of the severity of their backgrounds to seek professional help. Also, therapeutic massage can be helpful in exploring, identifying, and releasing stored memories and messages, and in healing from them. So can other alternative forms of healthcare. The feelings, beliefs, and pain don't go away just because we have denied and repressed them. They go deep within and are stored in the fiber and tissues of our bodies. Then they keep showing up in our behaviors until we heal. And yes, healing is possible. We can heal at as deep a level as we have been affected. Don't worry about doing this step perfectly. Please don't worry about doing it well enough. This step will work if we make an effort to work it. It will start a process. It will move us forward on our journey. Choose a way to do this step and then do it. Be as honest as possible. Be open. Be willing to do what feels right for you when it feels right to do that. You don't have to let it overwhelm you. Some people feel so critical of themselves when they begin recovery, they need to wait a year or two to work this step. If you do not feel ready, don't worry about it. Like the other steps, this one will find you when it's time. You'll know when it's time. The next section here, opening our hearts to love. It took me years to realize the power, the significance, and the potency of the fourth step of this program as it applied to codependency recovery. Let me tell you what happened and what this step accomplished in my life. The first time I dared look within myself, I was terrified. I had made a life practice of avoiding myself by any and all means. I craved and clung to any addiction, relationship, or outside distraction. I did this because I was afraid. Afraid of what I would find. Afraid of the emotional impact of searching out what had been long stored inside me. Maybe I was afraid I would find nothing inside or just simply darkness. I didn't know how to look within until I found this step, this tool. First time I took an inventory of myself, it was primitive and rudimentary. Thank God, that's all this program asks, because my primitive and rudimentary experiment with this self-examination was sufficient to propel me along the road to recovery. It was enough. I did an autobiography. I wrote what came to mind about myself. It was between 8 and 15 pages long. Tagged onto the autobiography was a list of my secrets that caused me the greatest shame. I did what I could at the time. My next fourth step was more refined. I had spent an additional year in recovery circles. I became more aware of what bothered me and other secrets I felt badly about, things I had overlooked. These new insights were incorporated into my next fourth step. Then the real work began. I entered a phase of looking within myself on a deep level. This wasn't a general sketch of my childhood, but a detailed sketch of my soul and my mind and all that had gone into the making of them. This process became experiential. I began to live a fourth step. Life prodded and poked me until I looked so deeply within that, at last, I could truly see me. I began to see more than the behaviors I had exhibited that had caused harm. The process of examining my behaviors in an autobiography was crucial. My first few fourth steps peeled away the outer layers of pain from my heart, but there was much, much more buried within. Excuse me. We got a little sunshine on the water. Alrighty. This fearless searching, this looking within, became a forced process imposed on me by recovery, by life, and my higher power. I did not like it, but I learned to accept it and to go through it. I wanted to use people, places, and diversions to stop myself from feeling what I felt, even when I was forced to look within, because I had surrendered to a God that loved me enough to force me to do that. A small part of me clung to the belief that if I manipulated my circumstances, changed my location or present state of mind, my pain would stop. It didn't, and I'm grateful, because it was good pain. It was healing pain. Finally, life got through to me. I learned that no matter how I rearranged my present circumstances, I would be feeling what I was feeling and facing what I was facing, because it was time to do that. It was time, finally, for me to become healed. I had asked for that to happen. Now I was receiving the gift of healing. It hurt. The pain I was finally facing had been with me for a long time. It was so deep, as were the messages that accompanied it, and I hadn't recognized it as pain or negative messages. I was aware only of the dull and constant ache of being alive, or rather being partially alive. I had grief inside, so much grief and aloneness and pain. I had so many walls around my heart that I could not tolerate receiving love. I had denied and blinded myself to my feelings for so very long. Feelings towards my father, my mother, my friends, myself, and I lived in both illusion and delusion. The feelings of rejection and sadness were accompanied by beliefs that I was not good enough and never would be. And I masked it all in a strange dichotomy in which I vacillated between feelings of superiority and inferiority. I had been neglected as a child, handed inaccurate beliefs about myself, abused, deprived, and denied of much that a child needs to become minimally healthy. To survive this, I had told myself terrible lies. I had bought into the brainwashing and had made one excuse after another for those I had lived with. The ultimate pain came not from what I had experienced, but from my reaction to those experiences. Denial and self-rejection. I learned to accept so little from life because I believed I deserved so little. I learned how terribly afraid I was to live, to go freely through the motions of life, to dance the dance of life and love. I said I wanted relationships, but I didn't really want intimacy. I wanted someone to buffer me. I wanted a fortress, a hiding place. But even in those hiding places of dysfunctional relationships, I couldn't hide. God kept shining a light on me, showing me, making me face the truth about myself. I learned I could not own my power with a lover until I learned to own my power with a parent. I could not be free to love until I broke my original bondage and took my own freedom to be alive, and to welcome myself into this world. The grief from this process was enormous. Being forced to stand alone with my own power, feel my feelings, and go through life without a buffer caused overwhelming emotions. I had spent my whole life avoiding feelings, functioning off mental energy, protecting myself with intellect, being forced into the emotional part of myself, which in essence is the heart. Hurt so badly and felt so uncomfortable and awkward, I screamed, whined, and bellyached about the whole thing for well over a year. I writhed from the discomfort of feeling. I went through the entire grief process over and over again, breaking through denial on a particular issue, then ascending immediately into anger and rage, until I accepted the momentary piercing of pain and sadness. Then for several days I would have a reprieve, and the process would begin anew on another denied, repressed issue. Over and over again I grieved one loss after another, from birth to the present. Life continued to bring me the experiences I needed to trigger this looking inward. I felt rage I didn't know I had. Pages and pages A torrent of fears and negative beliefs spilled out of me. Discomfort does not adequately describe this process of experientially living through this healing process. I began to believe that was all there was. I thought the most I could hope for was that someday this process would end and I would return to feelings as I had before. There was more to come, though. One night, in the privacy of my own home, a spiritual experience took place. It took place in my heart. Like a tidal wave, the realization that I needed to forgive every single person from my past, flooded through me. It was a spiritual thought like divine guidance. It was also a human thought like it's time to go to the grocery store. It was an awareness. Immediately, the list of those I needed to forgive flooded through me. It went from my mind down to my heart, and a forgiving, loving thought went with each name. Forgiveness was a gift. All I needed to do was become willing, and I don't know how great a part I played in that. For a while, I had assumed anger and acknowledgement was all there was to the process. These ideas were important. They were only part of the experience. As each name, each person in a forgiving thought for each passed through my heart, I felt my heart becoming lighter and lighter. I had a physical experience of feeling the heaviness, the pain, the steel girders around my heart melting. Great restricting bands around my chest were breaking loose, and a part of me that had been closed opened. That part was my heart. At the end of this experience, I realized I had one more person to forgive. It took the most effort and most time to forgive and accept that person. That person was me. For years, I kept myself protected, encased in steel. My heart is open now, open and able to love in a way it never has. My emotional center has become unclogged. Emotions cycle through me in waves. They come, they present themselves, they release, and I am grateful to be freely feeling, experiencing all of them. But the new one, the one I never had before, is love. It is so powerful. For the first time in my life, I am experiencing unconditional love. I feel it from others. I feel it for others. It is so different from the way I have loved in the past. It is so big. For the first time in my life, there is room, really room, to love myself and others, and let others love me. I still get afraid, but like other emotions, the fear passes through me. Once I face and acknowledge it, my heart is opening to love, joy, peace, sadness, anger, fear, to all that hearts feel. The knives and burrs and thorns are being removed from it. It is a good heart. It's a nice heart. I can hear it beating. I can feel it now. It's real. Sometimes I feel like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. I finally have a heart. I'm real and I can love. Maybe I had this heart all along, but it didn't become real until it healed. Now, when I hear people balk about taking a fourth step, I chuckle. I haven't taken a formal one, they say. I probably should, they say, but I'm not really ready. I haven't gotten around to it, they mumble. I understand the fear, but I also understand the process. They stick around life and recovery long enough They'll probably end up taking one like I did, whether they are ready or not. Then they'll be glad they did. I remember asking God to help me heal and to help me really take a good fourth step, a deep one. God answers our prayers, the ones in our best interest, even when we forget we asked, even if we're afraid. God will answer. We work these steps to heal from our pain, fear, guilt, and limiting beliefs. But to do that, we must first recognize them. That is our task in this fourth step. Those who find the courage to look within are the people most comfortable with themselves and recovery. This is the healing step. This is the healing the heart step. This step can change lives. Please go deep. Go as deep within yourself as you can. Start with the top layer and let the process take you deeper. Do not be afraid of what you will find. The things that have happened to us, they may be dark, but our core is beautiful and good. Take this step once, twice, as often as we need. Let the process of looking within become a habitual response to life and life situations. Not to blame. Not to hold ourselves responsible for the behavior of others, but to explore, understand, take responsibility for, and cherish who we really are. Take the step to empower and enable ourselves to heal and to take care of ourselves in any circumstances. If we don't know what our issue is to deal with, ask God to reveal it to us. Ask God to show us what it is we need to face within ourselves. God will answer. When we find the courage to look within and discover what is really going on with us, when we accept who we are, including our darker side, we will find that what happens outside and around us and within us begins to change. Not facing our pain, not facing our fears, is often the great motivator to the behaviors we call codependency. Looking within is the key to releasing our pain and producing recovery and health in our lives. Excuse me. Often we need to begin our recoveries by pointing the finger at the other person. We need to get mad, indignant, and sometimes even blame as we grieve. If we are seeking only the relief of being blameless, we are seeking only the temporary relief and high of moral superiority, then we can continue doing that. But if we are looking for more from our recoveries and from our lives, looking within is the answer. We will stop looking to others to stop our pain and help us feel better. And we'll begin with the help of our higher power to do that for ourselves. They say that alcoholics work these steps passionately because their lives depend on it. Well, so do ours. When we discover what's really going on within us, we will soon learn what it is we need to do to take care of ourselves. Be honest, but also be gentle and understanding with ourselves as we work this step. We have been doing what we believed we needed to do to survive. Now, we are on the way to becoming fully alive. And there are 4 questions at the end of this step. The activities questions on page 84. Number 1. Have you done any family of origin work yet? Have you identified any old beliefs or any feelings from the past? Number 2. Have you already done a 4th step? Do you feel up to date with your feelings and issues? Number 3. Did any of the suggestions for doing this step provoke your curiosity? You may want to set a reasonable goal for doing this step. You can write your goal down and give yourself as much time as you want. For instance, I want to do a 4th step in the next 18 months. Or, I want to do a 4th step in the next 3 weeks. And the final one, number 4. Do you feel blocked in any area of your life? Do you think it might be helpful to do a 4th step on that area? And that is the end of step 4. We had to make it in 2 parts. See, my mom used to always say, again, I was the only girl and I was the oldest, so anytime she'd be like, here, we got some stuff to do, and I'd say, okay, we. And Mom would go, look, girl, you got you a mouse in your pocket? And so every time I'm in my mobile studio and I say we, I do actually have a dog. It's not in my pocket. But I can't help but think of the thousands of times that when I mistakenly said we to my mother, and she asked if I had a mouse in my pocket. So that is Life Stories with Crystal. Sorry. I was apologizing for saying we, and I went out and listened to some awesome ladies singing last night, so my voice is a little itchy scratchy, but I'm feeling wonderful. It was a fabulous time. Well, I'll continue with step 5. It'll be a surprise. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you.